Okay, we're going to continue on with chapter 17. I apologize for breaking up with the last slide with you. It was an issue at the college that I had to deal with, and I was expecting that phone call, which is why I left my phone on. So it's all taken care of now. So anyways, all right. We were talking about abnormal urine output and frequency. So with an increased urgency or frequency of urination, this could indicate some type of irritation within the ureters and urinary bladder. And the amount of urine produced daily remains normal, but you just feel like you still have to go. You can also have changes in urinary output, and this would be where there's no change in your fluid intake, but there's still either increased urination or decreased urination, even though you are bringing the normal amount in. So incontinence is the inability to control voluntary urination. This would be from periodic involuntary leakage, like stress incontinence. This is very common in women who have had children, like when you sneeze, when you cough, when you laugh too much, maybe a little bit leaks out. And that's, again, just because those urogenital muscles are not as strong as they used to be from holding a child inside for 9 months. That will definitely weaken those muscles. Inability to delay urination, this would be urge incontinence, where you just can't hold it any longer. And then continual flow or slow trickle, this would be overflow incontinence, when the bladder is just always full and therefore overflowing. Urinary retention would be when your kidney function is normal, but you're not urinating, and the enlarged prostate is the common cause of this in males, as I mentioned before. Urinalysis is the actual exam or examination of a urine sample. It's a chemical analysis. It's allowing for screening, or you do a screening like it's like a little dipstick, and you test the pH, ketones, glucose, bilirubin, urobilinogen, plasma proteins, and hemoglobin. And the majority of those ketones, plasma proteins, and hemoglobin should be negative, but glucose should be relatively low. If it's high, it could indicate diabetes and things. You can also detect hormones with the urinalysis, like HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin. That's the pregnancy hormone that pregnancy tests are testing for. That's the urinalysis strip. You may get a chance to do that in lab, depending on who your instructor is and the rules of the college. There's also a sediment analysis. This is when the urine sample is actually spun, and you can examine the sediment under the microscope. The sediment contains mineral crystals, deposits, or casts. The cast could indicate kidney stone developing, or the presence of red blood cells or white blood cells, which could indicate infection or inflammation. The casts have a protein coat on them, and they can form in the distal convoluted tubules or the collecting ducts. So there are the crystals, bacteria, the cells, and the casts, which are just collections of cells within the protein coat. You can pause the video here, go back and review this section. So that was the first section of the chapter, all about the urinary system. Now we're kind of switching gears and talking about fluids in the body. The fluids are the inorganic components of our body. They're water and minerals. So water is distributed within the fluid compartments. There's an intracellular and an extracellular. Intracellular or cytosol, that's within the cells. Extracellular is outside of the cells. This percentage is going to vary between males and females, and within the interstitial fluids. So in adult males, the majority of our intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid is water, and then the rest is solutes. In females, it's about 50-50. The solid components of the body are about 40 to 50% of the overall mass of the body. These are inorganic and organic components like proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and minerals. The minerals are inorganic substances. They can dissociate into electrolytes. And here you see the overall solids of our body, mostly proteins. Our body is mostly protein. So our body has to maintain fluid balance. This is balanced out when the amount of water gained each day is equal to the amount of water that's lost each day. Water can be gained through the digestive tract, drinking, or metabolic processes as well. Water is lost through feces, urination, and evaporation from sweating. It's also lost through respiration. I'm surprised the PowerPoint didn't list that for you. Water moves through osmosis, and it flows down the concentration gradient, just as we've learned already. So bringing water in, and water created during metabolism, water is eliminated through sweating, lost through reabsorption in the digestive tract, eliminated in the feces. It's also eliminated in respiration. I can't believe the book didn't include that. So there are fluid shifts that occur through the ECF and ICF. Fluid shifts are the movement that's in response to a osmotic concentration gradient. They occur rapidly in osmotic concentration changes, and equilibrium can be reached in minutes or hours depending on, what's going on. So the cells are going to typically sacrifice themselves to make sure that the extracellular fluid maintains a proper condition. So extracellular fluid is the most important fluid in the body because this is surrounding all of our cells, right? This is our blood plasma, this is the interstitial fluid, this is the CSF, right? This is all the fluids that are outside of our cells. It's super important that that is in balance and within homeostatic limits, so the cells themselves will maybe become a little too dilute or a little under concentrated so that the ECF can be in balance. Mineral balance is a balance between ion absorption and ion excretion. So instead of bringing the ions in and getting rid of them, through sweating, etc., absorption is just through our digestive tract. So again, all the water that we put into our body is mostly brought in through digestion and reabsorbed, but our digestive tract is really responsible for our mineral balance, bringing them in and getting them into the blood and into the cells. Excretion is mostly happening at the kidneys for our ions, and this is a variable rate with sweat as well. There's a little bit of salt loss with sweat, as you probably know. The body maintains reserves of most of our minerals, and the daily intake has to balance out and create what we call the mineral balance in our body. So ions absorb across the epithelial lining. They can be stored in areas like our bones, right, major mineral reserve, and then they can be excreted through sweat and the kidneys. This is just reviewing all the major mineral functions, which you should be familiar with already because these are the same minerals that we talked about in our nutrition section. You can pause the video here, go back and review this part. Sodium balance is acquired when sodium gains equals sodium loss. The mechanism involved in exchanging extracellular fluid volume while keeping sodium concentration stable. So sodium gains exceed losses. That's when the extracellular fluid volume will increase, and when the losses exceed the gains, the volume will decrease. Small changes in volume do not cause physiological effects. Large changes will. So this is our overall homeostatic mechanism. You have some type of disturbance where the sodium levels in the extracellular fluid rise, and oops, went the wrong way. This is going to stimulate osmoreceptors within the hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus is going to secrete ADH. ADH is going to restrict water loss, basically saying, whoa, our blood's too concentrated. We don't have enough fluid to balance out all of this sodium. So because the ECF osmolarity increases, water shifts out of the intracellular fluid and into the extracellular fluid, increasing the volume, lowering the overall concentrations of sodium, getting our sodium concentrations back to normal. Conversely, if sodium levels fall, then our osmoreceptors are inhibited in the hypothalamus. So as soon as the osmotic concentration in the ECF drops by more than 2%, ADH secretion decreases, so thirst is suppressed, and water loss at the kidneys increase. So this is going to have an overall effect of reducing water volume and therefore increasing sodium levels and therefore getting us back to homeostasis. If the ECF volume is disrupted significantly, homeostatic mechanisms are activated. The ECF volume can increase, the blood volume can increase. There's special mechanisms which we've discussed to respond to low blood pressure. If the ECF volume decreases, the blood volume decreases. And then those are special mechanisms that respond to increased blood volume. You would only see a sustained sodium imbalance in the extracellular fluid. That would be a secondary effect to severe balance problems. Typically, you're looking at overall volume and overall pressure instead of just sodium. So here you see a homeostatic issue where you have a fluid gain or a fluid rise in ECF, increased blood volume, increased arterial tension, cardiac muscles are going to stretch. They're going to release ANP, atrial natriuretic peptide. That's going to cause an overall response, increased sodium loss in the urine, increased water loss in the urine, reduction of thirst, inhibiting of ADH and aldosterone, epinephrine and norepinephrine, and then finally reducing blood volume, reducing blood pressure, getting our homeostasis back to normal. Or you could have fluid loss or sodium loss in the extracellular fluid. This is going to cause a decrease in blood volume or a decrease in blood pressure. Overall responses, the renin-angiotensin system, releasing aldosterone and ADH, that's going to have increased urinary sodium retention, decreased water loss, increased thirst, increased water uptake, overall getting homeostasis back to normal. You can pause the video here, go back and review this section. Overall acid-base balance would be the pH is, just for a quick review, pH is a measurement of hydrogen ion concentration in the body. Normal blood pH is 7.35 to 7.45, and the body is always maintained an acid-base balance. If the pH of the body fluids are within normal limits, that's what we want, right? Production of hydrogen ions is offset by the loss of hydrogen ions at the kidney. Hydrogen ions are produced by natural metabolic processes, and our kidney's job and our respiratory tract's job is to excrete them as much as we can. So you have tissue cells, which are excreting or expelling carbon dioxide molecules as well as hydrogen ions just from their overall chemistry. Those ions go into the blood, help maintain that blood plasma at 735 to 745. The hydrogen ions are expelled at the kidneys, which is normal elimination. The carbon dioxide ions or molecules are expelled with the respiratory system, right, exhaling. Buffer systems maintain in the blood, and they will help balance out if there's too many hydrogen ions or too little hydrogen ions. They help keep that blood pH in the 735 to 745 range. Changes in hydrogen ion concentration are very, very dangerous to our body. They can alter the stability of plasma membranes, the structure of proteins, change how our enzymes are acting, change our nervous and cardiovascular systems. If 7.7, if your pH fluctuates too far out of that 735, 745, like down to 6.8 or 7.7, you're going to be dead very, very quickly. It's very dangerous. So these are just some terms relating acid-base balance. You should be familiar with these terms at this point. Acidosis is a physiological condition when your blood plasma pH falls below 735. It's acidemia or acidosis. Severe acidosis is deadly, as I mentioned before. Central nervous system function deteriorates. Cardiac contractions become very weak and irregular, and vasodilation will cause a severe drop in blood pressure. Alkalosis is the opposite. This is caused by a plasma pH above 745, and severe alkalosis can be dangerous, but it's relatively rare because our body tends to produce hydrogen ions, which are acids. Our body tends to be a little bit more acidic than basic. So let's talk about the importance of carbon dioxide in pH. Carbon dioxide level is the most important factor that's affecting our body pH. Carbon dioxide, CO2, combines with water to form carbonic acid. This inverse relationship between, there is an inverse relationship between carbon dioxide levels and pH. Increased carbon dioxide, decreased pH. Decreased carbon dioxide, increased pH. Remember, when you're decreasing the pH, you're raising the acidity. It's more acid, right? So in other words, think of carbon dioxide as an acid. The more carbon dioxide you have in your body, the more acidic your body is, the lower the pH. So here you see what I mean. This overall balance of carbon dioxide and pH. If carbon dioxide rises, your pH is going to go down. If carbon dioxide falls, your pH is going to go up. This is that overall reaction of the buffer system where water and carbon dioxide react together to form carbonic acid. Carbonic acid will dissociate into bicarbonate and a hydrogen ion. The accumulation of these hydrogen ions is what makes our pH fall. So we have buffer systems in our body to help temporarily compensate for those shifts in hydrogen ion concentrations. It consists of a weak acid and a anion, which is released by its dissociation. The anion functions as a weak base. The weak acid and anion are in equilibrium. Adding hydrogen ions will disrupt the equilibrium, making a more weak acid molecule, so less free hydrogen ions. Removing the hydrogen ions will result in more dissociation and more free hydrogen ions. Here's the overall equation, and we'll look at this more in just a minute. So you have your ions, and they dissociate, and as I would much rather show you the actual, well, if this confuses you as it confuses me, I don't like HY. I would rather just look and learn the actual ions. We'll do that in a couple slides. So this is the overall equation that is the most important buffer equation in the body, and we'll talk about this in just a few slides. So buffer systems are temporarily compensating for those pH shifts. Renal and respiratory compensate as well. Renal compensation are going to adjust by either excreting hydrogen ions or bicarbonate ions. The respiratory system is just going to help eliminate carbon dioxide, which, as I said, acts as an acid in the body. You can pause the video here, go back and answer these 3 questions. Let's talk about the 3 main buffer systems of the body: phosphate buffer, protein buffer, and carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer. They tie up the hydrogen ions temporarily. The buffer molecules are tied up also, and we are limited by our supply of buffers. So it's not like you can just go ahead and inject your body with acid. It's not going to be very effective. You have intracellular fluid is using the phosphate buffer system as well as protein buffer systems. Extracellular fluid uses the bicarbonate carbonic acid buffer system as well as protein buffer systems. There's 3 major protein buffer systems: hemoglobin, amino acid, and plasma protein buffers. So let's talk about all of these. The hemoglobin buffer system is the intracellular buffer system. It can have an immediate effect on the pH of all of our body fluids. The red blood cells absorb carbon dioxide from the plasma. The carbon dioxide is converted into carbonic acid, and the carbonic acid dissociates, and hemoglobin buffers will attach to the hydrogen ions. In the lungs, the process is reversed, and carbon dioxide is released into the alveoli. So here's the process: carbon dioxide reacting with water to create carbonic acid, bicarbonate, hemoglobin plus hydrogen. And then in our lungs, the opposite is happening. That hydrogen, which was originally attached to our hemoglobin, gets attached to the bicarbonate, forming carbonic acid, which dissociates into water and carbon dioxide. The protein buffer system is when amino acids will respond to pH by accepting or releasing hydrogen ions. Most groups are available as buffers, like the carboxylate group is accepting additional hydrogen ions by forming a carboxyl group, or an amino group, which accepts an additional hydrogen ion to form an ammonium group. It's not an amino group. That's weird. Typos in the PowerPoint. All right. Overall, protein buffer systems can work to increase or decrease our pH as needed, accepting more and more hydrogen ions and just creating new amino acids. So the carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer system is our most important buffer system in the body. It's freely reversible. It protects against the effects of acids that are generated by normal metabolic activity. This is our extracellular mechanism for maintaining blood pH. It takes the hydrogen ions, generates carbonic acid, and then dissociates, creating a bicarbonate ion. The carbonic acid dissociates into water and carbon dioxide. So the bicarbonate reserves in the body form sodium bicarbonate. So here's the overall process. Carbon dioxide, or rather addition of hydrogen ions from metabolic activity, go into our carbonic acid buffer system. We have a reserve of bicarbonate from being stored as sodium bicarbonate. The hydrogen ion is going to form a carbonic acid when it combines with bicarbonate. Carbonic acid is going to dissociate into carbon dioxide and water, and the carbon dioxide will be exhaled at the lungs. We also have metabolic acid-based disorders, which result from the production or loss of excessive amounts of acids. The carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer system protects against these disorders. Respiratory acid-based disorders include an imbalance between carbon dioxide generation and elimination. So the carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer system cannot protect against respiratory disorders. Imbalances have to be corrected by changing the depth and rate of respiration. You can pause the video here, go back and review these 3 questions. Metabolic acidosis will develop when acids are released in large numbers of hydrogen ions or if the pH drops. The responses will restore homeostasis, and they involve increased respiration rate, lowering carbon dioxide levels, converting more carbonic acid to water, or the kidneys removing hydrogen ions from the body fluids through secretion. So, overall, addition of hydrogen ions, again, normal metabolic byproduct. They are added to our bicarbonate ion, which were being stored in the kidneys. The bicarbonate ion is floating around the blood, will be converted into carbonic acid, which will dissociate into water and carbon dioxide. Respiratory acidosis is going to exhale the carbon dioxide renal acidosis is going to secrete the hydrogen ions. So there's also other buffer systems that can help soak up those extra acids, as we've mentioned. In respiratory acidosis, we are developing, that's going to develop when the rate of carbon dioxide removal is less than the carbon dioxide that's generated. So this could be like if you're exercising a lot and you're breathing a lot and you just can't seem to catch your breath, right? The responses to restore homeostasis would increase our respiration rate and increase hydrogen ion secretion by the kidneys and generate, and therefore the generation of those bicarbonate ions. So homeostasis is disturbed. We're not breathing enough. We have increased levels of carbon dioxide in the blood. So elevated carbon dioxide in the blood is going to decrease our pH. Our respiratory is going to compensate by stimulating our chemoreceptors, raising our respiration rate. Our kidneys are going to start secreting more hydrogen ions into the urine, and more bicarbonate ions are going to enter the blood and act as buffers to accept those hydrogen ions that are accumulating. That therefore carbon dioxide levels are going to decrease, and we're going to have a decrease in the number of hydrogen ions floating around the blood, and we'll get our blood plasma back to normal. In alkalosis, we have a large number of hydrogen ions being removed from the body fluid, so this is raising the pH. The responses will involve a decreased respiration rate, raising our carbon dioxide levels, converting more carbon dioxide to carbonic acid, the kidneys secreting less hydrogen ions from the body fluids and excreting more bicarbonate. So it's basically the opposite. You have too much hydrogen ions being removed, and this is because you have a decreased respiration rate, elevating our carbon dioxide levels, creating the carbonic acid, which dissociates, and therefore our kidney tubules are going to secrete more bicarbonate ions than hydrogen ions. Respiratory alkalosis will develop when rates of carbon dioxide removal by the lungs exceeds the carbon dioxide generation. So this is usually anxiety or hyperventilation, right? The responses will involve slowing your respiration rate down, decreasing hydrogen concentration in the kidneys, and excretion of bicarbonate ions. So overall, we have decreased carbon dioxide, hyperventilation, not enough carbon dioxide in the blood. This is going to create a respiratory alkalosis state, lower carbon dioxide levels, raising the blood plasma pH. Our respiratory center is going to be inhibited, respiration rate declines. Renal kidneys are going to compensate by secreting our bicarbonate ions and holding on to hydrogen ions. Buffer systems other than the bicarbonate buffer system will release hydrogen ions, and the overall effect is an increase in carbon dioxide levels and an increase in hydrogen levels, which is a decrease in bicarbonate levels, which is an increase in pH. Gets us back to normal. You can pause the video. You can actually stop the video here because this is the last slide. We talked about the urinary system, fluid and acid-base balance in this chapter, several sections which are all very important, and hopefully by this point of the semester you're starting to have a big picture of how the human body works, how everything works together, the interrelatedness of all of the systems, and our next chapters are kind of like the cherry on top of the cake. They're just topping everything off. But this chapter really summarizes everything that you have learned so far, because it's a little bit of chemistry and a lot of physiology. So let me know what questions you have, and have an awesome day.